I'm going to show you guys how to make a flashlight that you can make brighter and dimmer, turn on and off, and also when it runs out of battery, it will turn off. On top of that, I'm going to show you how to make it so you can reload the batteries and turn the flashlight back on. The first thing you need to do is go into the games section, and we're going to be choosing first person this time. I'm going to be naming mine Tutorial Light, and I'm going to create it. If you hold down Control plus L, you can get the ability to move the sun around the direction it's coming from. And for this tutorial, we're going to drop it down below. Next, we're going to go to our first person folder, Blueprints BP first person character. We are going to go to the viewport. We're going to click on the first person camera, add, and we're going to type in the word light. And we're going to take spotlight. We're going to drag it a little bit out in front of our camera. Next, we're going to go over to Inputs, Actions. We're going to highlight, jump, and duplicate it, and then rename it to Flashlight. We're going to go back a folder into Inputs. We're going to IMC Default, and we have all of our mappings here. We're going to add one, and we're going to do Input Flashlight. And then for this tutorial, I will put it as F. That makes sense for me. Save and then close. Next, what we need to do is go over to our BP first person character, go to Event Graph, call out our input action flashlight, grab a reference to our spotlight. If you hold Control and let go, it'll drop a reference, and then get visible. Drop our input action so we can pull from the completed node. Drag out into a branch. Plugin is visible, so when it is visible, I copy this. So when it is visible, so true, we want to make it not visible. So we do set visibility. Defaultly, it's set to not true. And then when it's not visible, we want to set it to be visible. You can then compile, save. Now, over in our editor, if you press F, you can turn it on and off. Next thing we need to do is go over to our viewport, click on our spotlight, press Add, and then click Audio. And I'm going to name this one Audio Flashlight On. I am then going to duplicate it and make a second one called Audio Flashlight Off. Underneath On in our sound settings, I'm going to dockable window open, select that one. And then for the off, dockable window close. Going to compile, save, move over to the event graph. In the event graph, I am going to drag out our reference to on and place it down here, and drag out our reference to off and place it here. And then drag out and do play. Leave the start time as 0. Let's copy this, put it up. Play, start time is 0. Compile and save. We also need to select both of these and then scroll down and uncheck auto activate. Next thing we need to do is go to our input actions, go to actions, right click, and then type in input action, IA underscore flashlight zoom. We're going to open that up, and we are going to call it a 1D float. We are going to add a trigger, and it's going to be pressed. We're going to save, close, go to our inputs, defaults, add a new default, call it the flashlight zoom, and then have it be on the scroll wheel. Save and close. Go back to our first person character, create a new input action for flashlight zoom, IA flashlight zoom. Create two new variables, both floats. We'll call the first one scroll strength, and the next one will be light attenuation. The scroll strength, we will have it multiply by 500, and the default attenuation we'll put as 1000. Next, we need to take our action value, multiply it by our scroll strength, add it to our attenuation, and then clamp float. We'll make the minimum 500 and the maximum 5,000, or let's do 10,000. And then we want to set our attenuation to this clamp, and then set attenuation radius for the spotlight and put that into here. And then we can print string, drag our value into here, compile and save. Now if we go over to our editor, you'll notice that if we scroll up, our light gets brighter, and if we scroll down, it gets closer. Next thing we want to do is create a custom event, and we will call it light battery decrease. And whenever the light is on, we want the battery to begin decreasing. So we need to create a variable called light battery, and it'll be a float, and we'll start off with 100%, so 1. Create another variable called light battery discharge rate. We are then going to scroll up, and we are going to grab this chunk here from when we turn our lights on and off, paste it right here, drag it into our new node that we made. We are then going to do, out of the true, do light battery. We're then going to take light battery and light battery discharge rate, subtract our discharge rate from our battery, plug it into set, or plug it into a clamp float, and you can just leave it as min 0, max 1. And then we are going to say, as long as our battery is less than or equal to 0, we're going to put a branch. As long as it's less than or equal to 0, then we are going to go up here, because once it's less than or equal to 0, we want to grab this chunk here, and when it is less than or equal to 0, we want it to turn the light off because we're out of battery. But if it's not and we still have battery, we want to go into a delay, and for demonstration purposes I'm going to leave it as 0.2. Then we're going to print string. And you know what, I'm actually going to make it 0.5 so it's a bit faster. I'm printing a string so then I can see the light battery in the game. And then we're going to drag out of that and bring it all the way back to the branch to see if the light's even on. If we double click this, we can clean it up a little bit. And then whenever the light's on, we want to call out to this custom event we just made, the light battery decrease. As soon as we turn it on, light battery decrease. And then also, way at the top up here, we should do a event begin play, and then call out to our light battery decrease if we're starting with the light on. Then compile and save. We then need to create a widget that can display our battery. So if we go to our content, we create a new folder. We can call it blueprints, open it up, another new folder, and we will call it widgets, and then open this up and create a new user widget. So way down at the bottom, you have widget blueprint, user widget, WP-HUD. I'm then going to open up our HUD. I'm going to add a canvas panel, and I'm going to add a progress bar. I'm going to anchor the progress bar across the bottom, like so. Position -30, offset rate 0. I'm going to make the percentage, just for visual purposes, 0.67, and I'm going to have it fill from center horizontal. I'm then going to right click on it and then wrap it with a border, and I prefer my borders at 0.5, so, or at 5, so then 5, 5, 5, 5. Compile and save. We are then going to go over to our event graph and then do a custom event, battery set %. We are then going to grab our progress bar and then do set %. Plug it into here, add a custom input, call it battery %. Plug that into here. We can highlight it all, clean it up a little bit, compile and save. We then need to add this to the viewport when the game begins. So we can do that by going back to our first person, our blueprints, first person player controller. We'll be snapping that to the top. Find our event begin play, and then follow it till we get to the sequence. Add a pin there. And below, we'll add another custom event called load HUD. Up here, we will call out to that. We will compile, save, and then we want to, out of here, create a widget, call our widget HUD, and then compile. We want to immediately promote that to a variable and call it, we'll call it WB_HUD ref, HUD reference. We then want to add to viewport and plug that in. We also want to go back to our first person character and do a custom event and call it create HUD ref. Add an input, call it WB_HUD ref, and then WB_HUD. Make sure it's an object reference. Compile, save, drag out, promote to variable, HUD reference, compile, save. We can go back to our controller and then cast to BP first person character, and then get controlling pawn, plug that into there, and then call out to create HUD reference, and then plug in our HUD reference, compile and save, go to first person, we know it's calling out there, compile and save that. Now that we have the HUD reference inside the first person character, we can go over to where our print string was on our battery decrease loop. We can delete the print string, get a reference to our HUD, and then say battery set %, plug that into the loop, and then do light battery, plug that into there, compile and save. And if you go back to our editor, you'll notice that the bar will begin declining whenever the light is on. And if you press F, it'll stop declining. You turn it back on, it'll begin declining again. And you'll notice once it hits down near the bottom, the light will turn off completely. I'm going to move our create HUD up to the top up here, and then create some new variables. One of them will be batteries max hold capacity, and that will be an integer. Another one I'll create is batteries current amount. We'll compile and save. Next, I'm going to create a custom event, and I will call it flashlight reload batteries. In this custom event, we want to go batteries current amount, and we want to say the current amount is greater than or equal to at least one battery. And when that is the case, we want to consume a battery. So we take our battery currents amount, we subtract 1, and then we set our current amount to that new amount with the single selected, and we want to take our battery and set it to 100% or 1. I'm going to select our battery's max hold capacity to a default of 3. I'm going to put the current amounts that we have as 2. I'm going to compile and save. I am going to go over to our content, inputs, actions. I'm going to take our flashlight and duplicate it and call it input action flashlight reload. Go back to inputs, IMC defaults, add a new mapping, the reload mapping, make it R, save, close that. And then on our flashlight reload batteries, I'm going to create the input action flashlight reload, do this drop down, and when we're completed pressing R, we want it to run this. If we go over to our HUD and then our design in our HUD, we can add a horizontal box to our canvas panel. And I'm going to anchor mine to the bottom left and then drag it down to here. Make it a bit bigger, right click, and then put in some text. Put it inside the box as a child and call it batteries remaining. I'm going to resize that box a bit better, like this, and then add another text inside the horizontal box once again, and then check it as is variable in the top right, and then we're going to name it txt underscore batteries, and the default value I'll put in as 67. Then I will compile and save. Now if I go over to the event graph inside the HUD, I'm going to create a custom event, set batteries amount, and then grab our text batteries, type in set text, add a custom input, and have it be an integer. drag into here, and then drag into our text. Compile and save. If I return to our first person character, in here, when we consume a battery, we'd like to actually update our HUD to know that we have consumed one. So if we get our HUD and we type in set batteries amount, we can drag right into here, and then we can grab our batteries current amount into here, compile and save. We also need to update the amount of batteries that are there when the game launches. So what we're going to do is do a custom event and call it update batteries amount. And then we will pull out the HUD reference, set batteries amount, drag into there, batteries amount current. And then at our event begin play, call out to that, update battery amount, compile and save. Now, if you go back to your editor, you'll notice our battery is going down, and then you can press R, and it will reload your battery. Then, once your batteries are not completely, you can press R and reload it, and then turn the light back on. But you'll notice the bar stayed low, so that means we need to call out and update it when we reload the battery. To fix that, what we'll have to do is call out to our HUD after we set the battery's amount, and then set our battery percentage to our light battery. Compile and now, as you can tell, once we run out and it turns off and we reload, it reloads the battery along the bottom, and we can turn it on and start draining again. If you guys have any more ideas or anything that you'd like to learn, or any comments or thoughts, please leave them in the comment section below.